All right, so this is the third video here, and we are now ready to kind of like create the other layout sketches that is used for the mold. Now again, this is kind of like the same style as we did in the second video. So like I said, I don't expect you to necessarily watch entirely through these videos. When you start getting the idea of it, you're definitely welcome to kind of like speed through or end it if you want to. Now don't forget, down in the description area, there is a link to the entire data set. You can download that in Fusion 360 and also check out the table of content down there. So I'm going to start creating the overall top layout sketch here. And the reason that I broke down the insert out of it was just to make it a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a rectangle. And the biggest plate on this mold is going to be 396 by 396, like that. And we also have the mold plates themselves. They are going to be 396 by 296, like that there. Now we could decide that we wanted to get the insert parameter into this sketch. That might find helpful. So I'm going to use the project and copy that over. We'll be fine. So we can get that in from that top sketch. I am also going to lay out some of the different bushing holes we're going to need here. So I'm going to lay out. So keep these at 30. And we're going to have a dimension from here to here. So these 4 holes here are the ones that is going to be the locating holes for holding the whole mold together. We're also going to have some screw holes going through here. So I am going to put those in. I'm going to stick with the 12 millimeter for that. Now those are going to be in line with our bushing holes. So that's easy enough. And they're going to be in line with each other here. Oops. And they're going to be all 12. There we go. And they need a dimension. There we go. Now another thing we need in here that I kind of like can recall as I'm sitting here drawing right now is we also need the risers, so we can put those in on this view too while we edit. So they are going to be 50 wide. to have 2 of those, so I like to sketch those in. Like that there. I don't think I got the end of them. So I'm going to make sure that those are collinear with this. And I think for right now, I think that I'm going to say that that is pretty good for laying things out. I know I need to come back to these sketches later, but I'm going to call this one top. And I like to call them mold slash clamping. So they're kind of like everything is contained in most of these sketches here. So we got one for that. And then I'm going to create the side one. And this one here is going to be a little bit more kind of layered. So we can start out like we did before with our insert block. Draw that one up there. And they are combined. So blocks are 112. And again, the length of this whole thing is 396. And I'm going to create that line to split the two. Just like that. And then just going to make sure what is top and bottom here. So this is the top we're looking at. So at the top, we also is going to, so let's do, next we're going to do the clamping plate. And that's just going to go, I'm going to go past a little bit over here. Diameter is going to be 27. And then I'm going to make these two collinear. Now after this, we're going to have a spacing plate. And that's going to be 27 also. And that is going to be collinear with this. Then we're going to have the riser. And those are going to be 56 tall, and again it's going to be collinear with that. And then at the bottom of those, we're going to have the last clamping plate. I'm not going to draw up in this view here. I'm not going to draw up the injector plate. So that's also going to be 27. And collinear there. Okay. Now, if you want to see, if I turn on the upper and the lower insert, you will see that they are sitting up there. That maybe have been a little bit helpful for you to see how kind of like everything is fitting together. So that is the side view of this. So I'm going to go in and say, so I'm going to go in and slow left click and call this side mold through clamp layout. Get that there. I can turn off these sketches, and I could now go in and create the last one here. What is going to be, of course, the front of this. So again, it's in a rectangle. It's going to be 112 tall by 296. That's our clamping plate right there. I'm going to hit alpha line and create the center line there. And then I'm going to kind of like build it up just like I did before. So there is going to be a clamping plate up here. I'm going to draw it up here because it's going to be a little bit longer. So the diameter here is 396. It's going to be 27 tall. And these two are going to be midpoint from here to midpoint from here. Like that. So that's our clamping plate on the injection side. Now down here, I'm going to create our spacer. 27. Make these two collinear. Then we're going to have the two risers. So they're going to be 50 wide. And we actually have that dimension on our top layout too, if you remember. And I'm going to make the risers here 56. And we're going to have another one of those over on the other side, of course. 56 by 50, like that. And then we're going to have a clamping plate down underneath here. So hit the S key. Let's get the rectangle. It's going to be 27. Whoops. 27 by 396. Like that here. And now I want to place it kind of like, use the collinear. So I'm going to hit a line. So it's going to be a construction line. Sure it's here. Hit X on the keyboard. And now I can use my favorite symmetry relationship right there. That's going to place the symmetry and then collinear from here to here, like that. And now I could also go in, we're going to have the ejection plates in here. So now where are we at it? Why don't we do that? There's going to be a injector base plate. That's going to be somewhere in here. I'm going to make the base plate 14 thick. And I'm going to make the width of it 186. Like that. I'm going to use the symmetry again. From here to here. And then I'm going to place a dimension here to here. And I'm going to leave it at 5. And then we're going to create the injector retainer. The one that's going to hold the retainer plate. So that one's going to be 12. And make that and that column here. That's going to kind of like be the layout for the front of the layout sketch. So I kind of like laid everything out what we pretty much need, except for the injection pins and the sprue, the inserting of the plastic. So I'm going to call this front mold. Oops. Clamp layout. So I really hope that with these sketches here, I hope that it starts making somewhat sense of how I'm laying everything out and I'm correcting everything from these plates. Again, now at this point might be a good time to make a version. There we go. Create all the missing plates we have right now. So I'm going to uncheck our cavity blocks. We don't really need those right now, and we can actually go out and maybe just do them all from the side here. So right click, create a new component, and this is going to be the mold plate. So this is going to be the upper mold plate. Upper mold plate. Spell plate. And with that active, I can just go in here and do Q. Select our rectangle here. And just like before, I'm just going to go ahead, go symmetrical, full width, and then it's going to be 296. And then I can just work my way through this. Hit Q. So if I go over and make the top there, we really have, you know, the whole mold. We're still needing, of course, the injector stuff, injector plate. But I think you now get, hopefully you now get a good idea about kind of like how we're using all these layout sketches. What means that with these layout sketches, I can start working with different things. So if we go back to the top one that we had before, we can now see that we have things laid out, and we can kind of lay out the different parts that we need in here. So what I probably will do now is I'm just going to kind of like start breaking down each component. I could actually be a little bit lazy and make cuts that goes through numerous plates if I want to. Even though that I'm out here in the active component, if I hit Q and I, for example, hit all our components here we have just created, and I select our bushing holes here, now I'm going to have this 30 millimeter bushing go through absolutely everything in here, through everything both ways, like this. So if I turn everything back on, I can actually grab here and grab here, and I can say through all, and just like this I have now created that cut, because that's going to be the same diameter all the way through the entire thing. And you will actually see, if we go in and we look at each component, now actually have that cut right there, that's that cut right there, through them. So it will propagate down that way. But I think just to make it easier, I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on each plate kind of individually. I think that that's a little bit easier. But again, the top sketch here is driving the different pieces. So with the upper mold plate here, I got a couple of things that I got to get in here. First of all, I got to get the screws in here, and I got to get the cutout for the insert plate. So just as before, I can open up a sketch on the back side here, create a sketch, and I can project our screw holes. That's our 12 millimeter screw holes right here. Hit Q, and I can now do those just like we did with the inserts. Select those. Down here, -30. Like that. Select them all. Zoom in a little. That, and make them the 12 millimeter threaded right there. The other thing I will do on this one is I gotta do the cutout for our insert. So this will be the upper insert, right? We gotta make a cutout for that one. So the upper insert here, make that exit for a second. is going to be to measure 37.5 thickness. So if we go turn that off and go back to our upper mold, make that active, I actually have, I'm spinning it around a little here, sorry. Create a sketch on that face. If we turn the top on here, we actually do have that cutout right here, so I can project the lines for that, like that. Hit Q, and we can extrude that down minus 37.5. Like that there. Now if I turn on the upper insert, we should see that that sits in there nicely. Hide that top sketch for a second. I'll turn the origin off. So now we have that in there. And again, don't forget, you can always use the section analysis tool to kind of like go in and confirm that things are as we want it. Hide that upper one again. And now we can work with this one and get the things done to this place as we want. We, for example, need to transfer the dowel pins and the screw holes from the insert over to this plate. So that is actually the top of the insert sketch up here, right? So if we turn that one on, we actually gotta copy those holes. So we can do that either if we open a sketch down on the bottom here, create a sketch, and turn that insert on there, and then we know that we're gonna put some we can project the dowel holes can go all the way through like that. And the clearance holes here, we can actually offset that. So if we hit O for offset, we can project, and then we can select the screw holes here. And then we can actually offset those by O. I want to do the counterboards, and actually here you probably again could use the whole command, and you could get the whole thing modeled in. So there is might be a little bit practical way to do this. This, and also I would also say that the depth here, you probably should also add the clearance in here. I'm just gonna do it to the nominal, what is 12 millimeters. But that is our counterbore and our dowel pins for the upper plate. So again, we're using the same sketches to create this as we did to put it inside of the insert block, what means that, again, if we ever need to change a dimension, if we decide to move the holes or the dowel holes in the insert block, they will automatically follow here. The next thing I'm going to do here is also create some clearance holes for the water channel. So there's going to be like some brass rods, pipes that's going to go in here to clearance, and also adds some chamfers to the outside of this mold plate. And then actually repeat that and do it to the lower mold plate also. And of course we can do a couple of things to this to make it maybe a little bit more pleasant, I guess we'll say. And of course, how crazy you want to get with the details on these type of things is of course completely up to you. Add some chamfers. Whatever we really want here. And we also got on this one here, we're also going to have a recess over here for when the bushing goes in, the pins goes in here. We also still got to do the water channels. But before I go to that, I actually think that I am going to go and do the same thing to the lower plate as we just did now. So if I turn the lower plate on, we will see that we need to do pretty much the same operations as we just did. For me, I just feel like following them along in steps kind of like makes maybe a little bit, pairing them up makes a little bit more sense. So go ahead and do that. All right, that should bring our part to just about where the upper one is. So these two are now identical, the upper and the lower, these two plates. And if we turn on the lower, the inner inserts, they should be in there too. I really like this section view, kind of like this. So there's our 12mm screws going through there. Then we got our inserts in here, and our screws and dowels and our parts and all that good stuff. Another trick that might be helpful too to show is to actually turn on component color cycling on there, and that would actually give different components. If I turn on the upper mold plate, you will see here is the upper insert, and if I turn the upper insert off, so now it's actually breaking everything down into components, what can make it a little bit better to kind of like break things apart. It's a kind of nice tool to kind of know about too. Now a couple of things that needs, I'm going to turn that off. So you can use that if you want to. Now a couple of things we need to do to these here is we got to do the countersink, and we also got to do the coolant channel. Now the coolant channels are really just clearances for these two holes here on for both the inserts. So if I just turn the inserts off, those two, this is clearance holes. So if I turn those two on, that would be on the insert side. If we open that sketch up, we click on that sketch, we will actually see the shadows of those holes in there. And One thing just to know that even though that I'm out in the overall active component, I can actually, if I turn these off and I do a Q and I select them, I can actually cut them through the upper and the lower mold plates just from in here and cut them through. But I actually want a little bit of clearance. I want them to be a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to turn each mold plate active so I get the sketch, and then I can just go in on this side here, say I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm just going to hit P again for project, and I'm going to grab the two holes just like this, and then hit C for circle or O for offset, and you can now add, you know, whatever clearance you want. So I'm not quite sure what size I want. Maybe I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger just because I know there's gonna be a pipe in there. Make them 18. And again, if I use relationship, I only have to change one to get them to the same size. Hit Q. I'll turn the sketch off and this one in here. Make sure I get both here. And then I'm actually going to cut with them. And I'm going to cut up to object. I'm going to call up to this face here. And there I now got that clearance. And I can go ahead and do the same thing to the lower one here. Like this, we should see in here that we have these two holes. And again, because we projected these, if we're moving the coolant holes in our side sketch, if we're moving these coolant holes up and down, remember that was the ones that had the 15 in them, the 15 step, then everything will move along with that. Now another little nice touch, I think, for this is see how on the insert we have in and out, and I will carry that through on these two plates also. Put into these is the counterbore here on the back. And I'm just going to draw that on each individual plate. So C for circle, it's going to be 41. And they're going to be 6 millimeters deep. -6. Do the same thing to the other side. And there we have the two upper mold plates. Still a few things we need to do: the injection and the sprue. I know that. Now we can move on to the upper clamping plate. So on that one here, we really just need to put in the counterbores for the screws. And then on the clamping plate, there's also going to be a recessed ring here for the sprue locating ring. Again, I'm going to go back to the top layout sketch to get the location of these holes.
that's the upper plate. Now we got the upper and the lower plate there. And if we turn the upper insert on, we can kind of see that we have that first section, really half of the mold here, besides, of course, we still got to do the sprue in here. If I'm looking here, you can actually see that I made a mistake. I picked the wrong side to cut out on the side here. So that is a perfect example of a mistake, but I have a feeling that it was when I made the cut in this plate. So if I click on this one and I make it active, I should actually be able to find out where exactly that cutout happened. There's the screws. So I bet you that it is this call here. I didn't select the right thing. So I'm just going to right click and say edit feature. And if we hide some of this other junk and we go normal to the top, I have a feeling alright, so a little confusion on my end selecting the right geometry when I did the cutout before. Now it looks better here, right there. And let me just check the lower mold, because maybe I did the same mistake on that one. I did not. That looks right. Okay. So at this point, I think that we can say that the upper and the lower mold are just about done. We have the upper clamping plate sitting there. That one right here. I'll roll a couple of things back. Sitting right there with its chamfers on. So in this case here, kind of like that upper section is gone. Now let's move to the lower spacing plate that's sitting down here. And I think at this point, I think that you kind of like get a gist of what I'm going to be doing the rest of the way here. So I'm just going to speed this up a little. Alright, that gives us the lower clamping plate. It gives us the left spacer with a hole through there. We got the right spacer, like that. Lower backing spacing plate, backing plate. Whoops. Then we got the lower mold plate with the lower insert in it. And then we can flip it to the other side where we're going to get the upper insert with the upper clamping plate and the upper mold plate. All right, so things are kind of like coming together here.
All right, so as you can see, we all kind of like run into some problems from time to time, and I felt like I didn't want to just cut it out of the video and try to make it go away magically. All right, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit through these videos. I think that now we are ready to attack the sprue and the injection. We kind of like got the whole mold base kind of like laid out there, and I hope that you start seeing these layout sketches, the power of those, kind of like how they can help you create things. So I hope that I see you for the next video.